Just behind the station's a nice 4-track tram terminus, and they do have oldies still here. They have had other problems in Berlin, like too many trams. Being the capital city, they just kept on sending more and more new trams here, to the point where they had, I think he said 200 or 300 too many. They just simply didn't need them. So most of them were sent off to Potsdam. They do, however, have the old ones on a few routes, and maybe surprisingly, it's largely because the power supply in a few areas is still too weak for the Tatras. This is just under the narrow profile U-Bahn you just saw. Your trams underneath, with an intersection as well for the trams. It's on the far side of the elevated. You've got an elevated in America, but no trams underneath. Longitudinal seating only in those cars, from what I've seen. Street. Oh, not so good with the van. Plus there's a Tatra in the distance beyond. If you don't like technical stuff, you can forget the next few seconds. Now that red light that just came on, that's the accelerator thingo under the floor. It stays on for about 4 seconds normally. I'm braking for a stop now. From what I saw in the depot the other night in Dresden, there are resistances also for the braking. That's extra resistances. Peter tells me you've got double the number of notches in braking as you do in acceleration, but I haven't quite worked out how that one goes. The voltage there, of course, is the battery, and it's sitting dead on 26 volts. I think you know the motor generators are also the blower for the motors. One thing I haven't mentioned is that often at the Terminus, first thing the driver does is turn it off to stop the noise, because with the fans it is a fairly noisy machine. Orange red. And there you go, the weak fields again. Yeah, I think that's enough of that anyway. No, our signal came up just as we got to it. It took 50 minutes more or less to get to the city area by S-Bahn, but we're going to go all the way home by tram, which means a change of tram once. And under the bridge, got a bit of gauntlet track. Not that it's real easy to see either, but anyway. With only 20-minute headways, you can't muck around forever with some of this, so this is just on the other side of the railway bridge where the gauntlet track is. Also the 82 comes out from the left, and that'll take us back towards the house, which is in the southeastern suburbs. Looks like the next number 13's coming. Can't see the number from here, it's too small. No, it's 13. That's the one we came out here on. Around here the traffic's crazy. Bogey version. The right track goes left and the left track goes right. Unfortunately, they're all going right at the moment. That's the funny junction once more. I didn't know there was so much water around Berlin. And another one. Outside Köpenick depot. There's 3 old cars here in the depot. This trailer, the motor behind it, I think both were rescued from chicken coop situations, and a maximum traction there as well, which never left the property. The cars are maintained by a group of enthusiasts, a group of about 60 and 20 workers, and they run from time to time. A little pile of scrap on the ground. Not too long ago, looked like that. Just got your gong out of that pile of scrap. Aluminium, believe it or not. And looky, that's what the little green motors are for. Mangle pantographs. And as I said, they'd rather mangle a pantograph than pull down half a mile of wire, so I suppose there's rationale in that. It's 8 minutes to 7 at night, so the run-in's starting to get underway a bit more. I think their end of peak goes a bit longer than ours. I'll see what they do with this wreck. Changed ends for little motor. Those bogie cars that look like the normal go to four-wheelers have got that unusual control that I saw in use in that old car in the museum in Dresden, so I'll have to get a ride on one of them tomorrow and see how the driver works it. Basically though, you push the button to go and that gives you series, then you push the other button I think at the same time and you can hear the thing tick up into parallel. This is the end of the 82.
Braucht man zweiter nach. Lass das Video laufen.
Yeah, okay. End of the single track on the 83, or start of it for us. Let's use his track key to open up this box, and this is control for the electric points here, automatic points. The 1 and 2 is for in service or not in service. It's in service at the moment. To the left of that there's 2 switches. One is for an overhead light, and the lower one is for heating, so that when it's snowing the points don't freeze up. Dankeschön. Stop to pick up nobody. They're sort of out in the bush here. I'll take this opportunity to mention that the section we're riding on now is about 6 kilometres of single track with loops, and apparently it's changed very little since it was opened in I think Lutz said 1906. The history of Berlin's a bit like Melbourne in that there's quite a few tramway companies in the past, and in 1920 they started amalgamating them all in the name of the city. Now looking out the front, it could be Szeged or some other comparatively insignificant place, but you must remember that it is in fact Berlin, East Berlin. The loops aren't terribly far apart, maybe 500 yards, kilometre at the most. And there are signals. Perhaps there's some weak feel. I didn't feel any particular surge when it went up to 600 amps. The cars are capable of regeneration, but because the overhead and substations and so on aren't done for it, they don't use it. Unless something particular comes along, I might leave it at there. Doors open and close. I gather some fun and games comes up here with the traffic. I've got a green light this time. A lot of noise from corrugations here. fiddling around with the road, but it's a track that really needs the attention along here. Worn out with kinks. For Stadium der Weltjugend, and fascinating bit of track work here. It's a scissors crossover, except the straight through on the left hand side is not there. There are various other crossovers around the corner for trams to overtake each other and so on, and apparently this last leg's not needed, so interesting. That's the number 6 which just came through that crossover. Christoph is driver here. I started driving a couple of weeks before he did, as a matter of fact. He was on the convention in Leipzig, and he let me drive the set down here, 3-car set. The brakes and power feel somewhat different to our cars, although it is a chopper set. Initial takeoff and so on seemed slower, and the brakes didn't seem quite the same, but no doubt you'd adjust in 5 minutes. There's a second number 18 coming behind us already. Oh yeah. It's been over.
This train has passed, he will pass the contact.
The other car's waiting for traffic lights. It's been over an hour to come out here so far, and this is about at the end of the line. Variety of reservation. All of this out here is brand new, or comparatively new anyway. The housing, the tracks and everything. Quite a variety in the run though. Shopping areas, factory areas, bit of parkland, and most of the route is to the east of the city, perhaps slightly northeast. Most of the people are gone now. So although there's no trams in West Berlin, the east is still comparatively healthy and growing. This appears to be the terminus where we cross sides for centre loading and unloading. You said it'd take 64 minutes, and that's what it's taken too. A bit shy. At the terminus, the driver has to check that all the property's been taken off the tram, and he's also got a small slip of paper to fill out giving his arrival and departure times. Sort of a log of the journey. There's 3 concentric circles here. As you can see, we're on the outer one. There's another number 18 there. And that's the terminus.
10 minutes. We've got it at 5:45.
Okay, and there's the log that has to be written in with the times. Destinations turned by hand. This is about 20 minutes or so back towards the city, and there were heaps of trams here till I got the camera out, of course, just after 6 at night. Thursday, I think it is. Number 5's got not many people, but there is a Terminus loop not far from here, and this station's on a bridge over the S-Bahn, so no doubt a fairly important interchange place. And as you can see, there's plenty of lovely houses in the background. Sometimes you get a good seat. This one looks beside the left arm of a nice looking tram driver. If she puts her arm down. And then you can watch the amp meter dance around while you listen to the chopper singing its tune. And you see it generates about 350 amps in dynamic brake. I'd love to get one of those gongs and fit them to one of our B class. Anyway, it's not the best angle for photography, so I'll leave it be for now. And there weren't that many people on the tram when I got on compared with some of the other trams going through there, so I thought it was probably a nice short ride, but such was not to be the case. Decided to eventually get out because I've got to go back soon. This is one of those nice junctions where there's a right turn lane for the trams. Unusual seeing as a single car. The 24 which I caught stayed on the centre track and came straight through. This is the terminus of the 86, Alt Smirkovich. Their generous layup times with a 20-minute service. There's already 2 other trams here. And it's crawling around the loop. Peter? No, that's right, moves up to the starting point. There's our one just arrives. There's another one behind him. And refresh your memory from last year's holiday. The controller is those 2 black buttons on the right. The left 2 are the heating and the points changing, I think. The further button on the right gives you series, and then you just press on the other button, the closer button to the camera, for parallel. Lutz, I think, is arranging something for the driving school for me tomorrow, but unfortunately it probably won't be one of these cars, which I'd very much like to try out. Unfortunately, you can barely see the drivers move their wrists. All the Clyde haters in Melbourne would certainly like to drive something like this, although from what I can understand, the brakes something else, in that it's chain driven and rather hefty to shift.